When we take still photographs, whether we realize it or not, we're freezing in time little slices of a 125th of a second or a 250th of a second or whatever. And sometimes the instant we choose to fire the shutter can define whether the picture is a winner or an also-ran. Think about that as a character of still imaging, that we're capturing just one instant in time. It can be when we're taking portraits, waiting for just that right expression, waiting for just that certain gleam in the eye, that certain type of eye contact, the subject kind of looking up at the camera, the expression turning from just kind of a half smile to a big smile or whatever. When we're taking candid pictures of people, whether it's strangers on the street or just people in our backyard at a 4th of July party or whatever, picking the moment when we take that picture, it can make a huge difference in terms of how we capture them and what we've captured. We think of moving subjects, and I mean action pictures and sports are an obvious example. You hear sports photographers talk about peak action all the time. But moving subjects can include much more everyday type of things as well. We can be talking about something as ordinary as a flag fluttering in the breeze and waiting that moment for the wind to pick up just a bit and to have it blowing fully and fully exposed, or conversely. Maybe you're trying to include the flag, but you want to include something behind it, and you want to wait for the wind to die down just a little bit so the flag isn't taking up the whole picture area. Again, timing is everything in some situations. Even in a landscape picture, things like the wind blowing flowers in your foreground or something like that, or waiting for something like a bird to cross the scene to just kind of give you one little extra visual element in the picture. Again, the moment you choose to fire the shutter can sometimes define the whole picture. Timing, that sense of when are you pressing the shutter button, can be real important when you have moving subjects in the context of waiting for the subject to come to you. We talked earlier about how our eyes can play tricks on us. Subjects that are kind of in the distance, we can see them clearly in many cases with our naked eye, and we can see all the details and everything. And we sometimes make the mistake of thinking that translates into a nice, tight photograph. And often it doesn't. A lot of times, if a subject is coming towards you, if you can be patient and wait for that subject to really get close to you, then you're on the way to a powerful photograph. Another element, sometimes even with the most advanced of cameras with powerful autofocusing systems, you can run into situations where you can have a subject that is difficult to focus upon and, get the timing perfectly right and everything. It could be a sports situation or whatever, but if you know that the subject is going to come to a predictable place as it moves toward you or whatever, you can often get great success by pre-focusing on a point, waiting for the subject to come to that point where it's in sharp focus, and then taking the picture. Now, many cameras have a continuous shooting mode as well. It may let us take 2, 3, 5 frames per second, or sometimes even more. And the so-called burst mode, this continuous drive mode, can also be very useful. We think of it as something that sports photographers would use, and obviously that's kind of a no-brainer. It can be useful in a lot of situations where you're looking to capture one moment in time out of many moments. But understand, in that situation, you are surrendering ultimate control of the shutter timing to the camera. And advanced photographers know that even the fastest of cameras, moving at 10, 12 frames a second or even higher, can't always capture the split second that you're looking for. Sometimes the best pictures are going to be from waiting for something to happen and pressing that button at just the right moment. As you're growing in your photography and moving from taking ordinary pictures to taking excellent pictures, there are a couple of things to keep in mind when we're photographing, especially people, but other live subjects as well. The most important things that communicate to a viewer in a shot of a person are going to be the eyes, the mouth, and the hands. Learn to look at these 3 elements and be ready to hit the shutter button when something communicates to you. It could be something as just as simple as a subject kind of looking up a certain way or just kind of changing their glance from one side to the other. Every picture of a person doesn't have to have eye contact looking dead into the camera. That's an important thing to keep in mind. But if you train yourself to watch the eyes, the mouth, and the hands, and fire that shutter at the instant one of those elements is doing something interesting, again, you're on your way to getting strong pictures. Another thing is simply waiting for people to do something. Whether it's a candid type of shot, whether it's a shot that you've kind of set up of a family member or whatever. Sometimes if you just kind of wait for them to do something, you often end up, again, with a more successful picture than if you just take that first shot. And on that note, when you're photographing people, anytime the circumstance allows, take more than one picture. In a candid sort of situation, it gives you lots of different opportunities for different looks. Remember, the first picture isn't always going to be the best one. And in situations where people are aware of the camera, even if they're posing for you, people never think you're going to take that second and subsequent shots. They always think you're going to take that first shot and then put the camera down. So a lot of times you get a very different result, sometimes pleasingly different, on the second or subsequent shots than you did on the first one.